take a few minutes to show you how I like to scale a truck. There are different methods of doing it. Different guys use different formulas, but I'll show you what's worked best for me over the years. I'm going to show you on scaling a truck that's 78,000 pounds, which is pretty much a standard load for running the US. I'll show you how I set it up. Pardon my crude diagram, it's the best I can do, I'm no artist. But ideally, in the States, you're allowed 34,000 pounds on a set of tandems. So you're allowed 34,000 pounds on this axle group, 34,000 pounds on this axle group, and 12,000 pounds on this axle. Now that'll vary in the States. If you have a spread axle, you're allowed more weight, but for today we're going to look at just this setup here, which is the way most trucks are configured. So supposing we've run the trailer across the cat scale and we're grossing 78,000 pounds. We're 2,000 pounds under gross, but we need to set up the axles correctly. The first axle group I set up is the rear trailer axles. Now there are adjusting holes to move the weight backward or forward on the trailer to facilitate this. So what you do is lock the trailer axles, release your pins on the trailer, and slide the trailer back and forth on these fixed axles, depending on what you need to do to try to hit as close to 34,000 pounds as you can get on this axle group. Now, the farther forward you pull the trailer, the lighter the weight will become. So if you run across the cat scale and you're 34,600 pounds on this axle group, you want to lose 600 pounds, you would release the pins and pull it forward. Now most trailers, the holes, each hole is worth between 350 and 400 pounds. So if you're 34.6, I would try rolling it 2 holes forward. So these axles locked, pull the trailer 2 holes forward, and then reset the locking pins. So that should have our trailer as close to 34,000 pounds as you can possibly get. The next thing I do is try to get as close to the 12,000 pounds on my steering axle as I can get. And what that requires is moving the 5th wheel ahead, pulling the trailer closer to the tractor. So release the 5th wheel pins. The trailer brakes are still locked. Release the 5th wheel pins. Physically hop out and check both sides to make sure those pins have released. Something else I like to do too when I'm sliding the 5th wheel is I roll down the landing gear until it's taking the weight off of the 5th wheel, and this just helps ease the stress on this configuration here. So with the landing gear down, pins released, back up the tractor towards the trailer until you've got it as close to 12,000 pounds as you can get. Each tooth on most 5th wheel cogs are worth about 100 pounds. So when you scale it initially, if you're, let's say you're 11,000 pounds, you want to scale it or move it 10 teeth. Forward on the 5th wheel setup to load the steering axle. Once you've accomplished that, reset your pins, check both sides of the pins, get out physically, and you might have to rock the truck back and forth a little to reset the pins, but you're still doing this with the landing gear down to take most of the weight and the strain off of this. So wiggle it back and forth a little with the pins set in on the switch, make sure the pins go in, and then roll up your landing gear. So you should be as heavy as you possibly can get on this axle group and this axle group, which leaves you a little light here. And that's where I like to travel with the available weight, because as you fuel up or down, like as you fuel up, you'll gain weight on this axle group, and as the fuel burns off, you'll lose weight on this axle group. So it'll be varying up and down. You know, these two are constant weight, consistent weight. But that way, if you find yourself oh, you're a little bit heavy, but the scale's another 500 miles up the road. By the time you get up the road even farther, you've got even more room here once you get past the scale, so you can put on more fuel. So these two axles, now if the unit was 78,000, you'd be at 34,000, 12,000, and 32,000 pounds on this particular axle group. And that'll give you 2,000 pounds worth of fuel to play with when you're scaling. Diesel fuel runs about 7 pounds a gallon. So after you've scaled, if you need 50 gallons, and it's 7 pounds a gallon roughly, there's 350 pounds you'll be adding right there to the 32,000. That's how I like to do it.